Welcome back to the second episode of the Men of Issachar podcast. This week we're going to take a look at a Christmas song. We're going to discuss laws versus rulers. We discuss a little bit about Trump, Bison Stew, and cheeseburgers, and creating legacies with your family, farm animals, among many other things. So sit back and relax.
We're rolling. Welcome back to the Men of Issachar podcast, our second attempt at a podcast.
That's right.
Second episode. So if you are new to the program, which you are, because we are, then this is a podcast where we discuss all kinds of things. And the idea behind it, if you're not familiar with the scripture reference, is that the Bible describes the men of Issachar who knew the times and what to do. And so that's kind of the theme. Do we know the times and do we know what to do? And so we'll be discussing a variety of things. So I am Terry, and I'm here with Jason. And it's just us two for now. We'll see if our third co-host joins us, Jeff. He might be here, and we'll sneak him in. At some point, he'll just start talking, and that's how you'll know he's here. So I'd like to start us off with an interesting anecdote that I learned today. Okay. We've been preparing. If you don't know, this is being recorded in a school, and we are preparing for. At the time of this recording, we're preparing for a Christmas caroling event. So one of the things that we really want to be is a school that sings well, sings with elevated culture, and tries to sing beautiful things and unique things, and kind of reach back into the past and look for forgotten things that were beautiful that have kind of been left behind in the dustbin of history, as you might say. And our music teacher found, because she wanted to give parts to women's voices, and she wanted to give some for the male voices as well. So she found a really good carol for the ladies to sing called Coventry Carol, which is a very beautiful song. You should look that up. And for the men, she found one that I had never heard of called, had you heard of this before?
I'd never heard of this.
Okay, this is called the Boar's Head Carol. And apparently the story goes that a student at, I think it was Oxford, Queen's College, it was
something like that.
It was somewhere in the United Kingdom, very old college, I imagine, was wandering about campus one evening with his volume of Aristotle.
Well, he was studying, I think.
He was studying somewhere where wild boars apparently are, because he was confronted with one unexpectedly, and his gut reaction was to take the book he had been reading and shove it down the boar's throat, which I guess killed it, or something. So he kills this boar, and then I don't know if he goes and gets help or what the deal is, but they bring the boar back, and this was right around Christmas time, and they barbecue it over a spit, and they have a Christmas feast with this boar as the honored guest. And so they wrote a song about it, and it's this song that is our music teacher said that it is still sung on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day.
But they still do the tradition as well.
They get a boar in there.
Head. Yeah.
So you may have seen this if you watched old movies or something like that. They'll have the big feast on the table, and kind of in the middle of it there's a pig's head with maybe an apple in it. You can imagine that, except with a textbook stuck in its mouth. And they prepare it. Apparently the original title was A Boar's Head with Mustard. And they changed it to the Boar's Head Carol because it's kind of a Christmas tradition. And so I'm really looking forward to singing it. And I think it's a really good time.
Well, there's another layer to this as well, because at the school, we have a dad's group that's called the Boars Club. The Boars Club. Yeah. So it was kind of apropos that.
Yeah, and we actually borrowed that. Now I'm wondering, because we got that name from another classical school in Idaho that has been around longer than us, which isn't saying a lot because we're new. We're pretty new. But they've been around for a little while, and they were the ones who gave me the idea of kind of initiating like a dad's kind of social group to discuss and talk about the school and just talk about other issues, and kind of have fellowship and develop friendships with the dads amongst the men of the school. And so theirs was called the Boars Club. And I was trying to think of an alternative name, and then time kind of got away from me, and I just was mentally referring to it as our Boars Club. So I was like, well, let's just call it the Boars Club. So now I'm going to have to send an email and see if those guys named it after this boar's head tradition.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me if they did.
And the genesis of this podcast came out of the Boars Club as well, because we were talking about. I wasn't familiar. I'm not nearly as educated as my other two co-hosts here, but they were talking about the men of Issachar, and I just thought, hey, that would be a great idea for a podcast to talk about things that are very appropriate to Christians in this day and age. And I knew that these guys were well studied and very current on, their knowledge of issues and politics and whatever else. So that was the genesis of it.
Yeah. So it's all tied together. Maybe we should change. Do we have bump music? We can change it to the Boar's Head Carol. Maybe for the Christmas episode.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll just sing it maybe.
There you
go. That I thought that was an amusing anecdote. We've got, I'm trying to think of some other ones. So this one's kind of funny too. So as a kind of a new school plant here, one of the things classical schools are finding, I apologize, I've got a lingering cough here, but one of the things that classical schools are finding is that there's a desire and a need for the inclusion of what could be called the common arts. A lot of times it's called common arts. And that's as opposed to liberal arts. Liberal arts are the more academic side, and we'll probably have an episode about that at some point. But you've no doubt, listener, you've heard the term liberal arts, and that's not to be confused with the sort of the modern vernacular as we use the term liberal to describe like a politically left person. It's more of a academic term. But as opposed to the liberal arts, we have the common arts, and there's a couple of other types of arts. But the common arts is like trades, so carpentry. You can do modern ones as well. I mean, electronics or electrical contracting, mechanical work on cars, all those kinds of things that we would consider to be skilled trades. And a funny anecdote from here recently is that I assigned a short paper to my guys that are in the mechanical arts class. And I had them kind of pick a topic, and it was based on what we had been discussing in class. So they each had kind of a different focus. But they asked one day if they could use my class time to go to the Harbor Freight Tools, which is like I don't know, if you don't have those wherever you're located, you will find that Harbor Freight carries kind of an odd mix of like bottom of the barrel, like cheapo tools. But there's occasional treasure to be found there.
If Radio Shack and Lowe's had a baby.
Yeah. A lot of like gimmicky things. It's a kind of a fun store, but they asked if they could go look at some stuff there, and I was like, okay. I mean, I trusted these guys to be back on time. They were both old enough to drive. I know both sets of parents well enough, and so they were allowed to go. And when they returned, they came back about half an hour later. They brought with them a go-kart engine that they had bought. One of them bought, and so they're now building a go-kart.
I love it.
And they're doing this kind of on their own time. But I told them that when they get it done, they've got to bring it to school and like drive it around. So that's the plan right now, and we're going to see if they can do it.
Yeah, and we referenced the book Durable Trades in the last podcast,
right?
And that kind of goes along with that that idea or that spirit.
Yeah. Yeah, they're trying to learn, and it's not just a specific set of skills. There's more of a self-ownership here, like the willingness, the ability to take on an unknown challenge because you've already met and overcome previous unknown challenges. There's something to be said for that.
Yeah, I've lived my life by that mantra, if you will. It's you just can't be scared to do what God's prepared you to do. Mm-hmm. I've done a lot of different tasks or jobs in my life, and one is built upon the other, and some of them are completely unrelated, but ends up in God's plan. They're all necessary.
Yeah. This man is one of the most well-rounded in terms of like, I don't know, employment history is not even like a great word. It's like I don't know, like a serial entrepreneur or something. I guess it's just kind of like here's an idea. I'm just going to go do it, and that's a rare type of person. Entrepreneurship, economists refer to as a scarce resource, so not everybody has that. But
well, I think I consider myself a hack of all trades. I'm not quite a jack of all trades. It's a step below that. And I think I'm just stupid enough to believe that I can do it. And most times with God's help, I can usually get it mostly done.
Can fumble through. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's probably a lesson there. There's a funny little meme that I saw recently, and it's just it's a little cartoon mouse, but the caption just kind of captures the imagination. It just says, "You must learn to proceed without certainty," which is true for life in general.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of folks, I think, who would try things if they thought, well, if I was guaranteed success, I would definitely do it. But nobody really ever is. I mean, even things that you're very confident about aren't really guarantees.
Well, I've come to realize in my faith journey that I serve a supernatural God. And if I truly believe that, if I truly in my bones, if I believe that, then I have to believe that there's nothing that's impossible.
Sure.
And I just have some, I'll call it blind courage, for lack of a better term. And sometimes that's just how I do it. I'm just like, okay, God, you put me here. You better stop me if you don't want me. Yeah, you better stop me if you don't want me to.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's probably happened some.
Oh, it has.
Some things don't go well, but that's another place where trust in God comes in, because if something flops, then do you get angry with God? Do you feel like or do you question yourself, or do you just say, well, this was God's will as well, Yeah. And just trust in His sovereign plan. But that may be a good early takeaway from this is, if you've got something that you're thinking about trying and you're scared to do it, then do some soul searching and think about what your motivation is, because it could be prudence that's keeping you from doing it, or it could be that you should do it.
Yeah, one of my key phrases is I throw spaghetti noodles at the wall to see if they stick, and if they do, then I just take another step.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'll get several steps in, and the ground falls out from under me.
The spaghetti slides
and
off.
I find myself in a new place
that
I can take a step in a different direction where I couldn't have otherwise.
I don't like this kind of hackneyed phrase, but when God closes a door, He opens a window is kind of, it kind of captures that idea.
Yeah.
So sorry, listener, to use that phrase. I think it's kind of cheesy, but I think the spirit of it is not terribly far off from the truth. So, all right, shall we get into this article?
Let's do it.
All right. So I work as one of my part-time gigs is that I work as a managing editor for American Reformer, which is a journal for specifically Protestant civic and social thought. The idea is to rejuvenate Protestant political theology through having people people who are reading primary sources, engaging with those things, doing the work of political philosophy, either professionally or as laymen, to contemplate an issue, write their opinion up on it. And so I do managing editor work, which is really kind of grunt work. It's a very fulfilling career side gig because I get to read all these things, which I'm already interested in anyway. And so I really enjoy it. And we had one that came out today by a guy named Ronald Dodson, who is a very good follow on X if you're on there. Very intelligent dude. He's been around, done all kinds of stuff, and is extremely well read, very thoughtful, knowledgeable about all kinds of philosophies and things of that nature. So this article that he came out with today, and the reason why I kind of wanted to think, this has been on my mind a little bit in other contexts, but his thesis here, and Ron, if you're out there, don't skewer me if I don't get this exactly right, but his thesis is basically that laws are useful tutors for the immature, and that when we reach maturity, that wisdom takes over. And so what he has, and he's using the incarnation of Christ as an example of this. So when Jesus came, you can look at the Sermon on the Mount and you can see Moses gave you this law, do not commit murder. But I say, whoever looks on whoever hates his brother is a murderer. So the law instructs us about what not to do. Wisdom, which Christ imparts through his teachings, his life, and the completed revelation, shows us rather not just to not commit murder, but to uproot the sin which leads to murder. And in theory, if we're successful at doing that, then actually murdering someone, like physically taking a life, never even becomes an issue. So he kind of extrapolates from that this concept of like, we are a nation of laws and not of men, which is sometimes something that you might hear. We're governed by laws. But I guess the question that I'm kind of getting at is, do you think that it's better to have laws as kind of this sovereign entity, or should we entrust the wisdom of men? And what are our pitfalls there? There's a few obvious ones, but
And just a heads up for the readers, I have not read this, so
no, he's going in blind.
I'm going in blind.
So I'm trying to ask good questions here, and we'll see if I'm successful. We just established you don't mind going in blind.
No, I don't. It's more honest that way.
Yeah.
My mind immediately goes to the term laws, and I question whether or not that best describes what God gives us. I think if we as wise men graduate from the laws, then I think there are principles. It's more direction based than actual guideline based. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a hard question. My mind's going in a million different directions now.
I think Ron would not say that the laws of God are abrogated, right? Like the moral laws still hold. You don't achieve an evolutionary state where you're so mature that you now can kill someone. Right?
Oh,
like
sure.
And just to clarify that's not what his position would be. And I'm wondering if maybe the idea here is, the law of God is a set of prohibitions, and that is helpful to learn where not to go. We kind of do this with our children. I think that maybe he would find that an apt metaphor with regards to maturity. Don't do this, don't do that. And as your children grow, you want, don't leave a mess behind, right? Like this is a law we would hand down. But as your children grow and mature, you would rather instead of having to say, don't leave a mess behind, you would rather your children walk through a messy room and say, boy, this is a mess. I'd like to clean this up. I have a desire to do what is good.
Yeah. One direction my mind wants to go is, we kind of add to the law, but I can see the destruction that led to in the days of Jesus with the Pharisees and everything.
Yeah.
That kind of quells that thought. But I think we could somewhat sharpen those laws.
Yeah. Yeah.
To an extent. I think there would definitely be a line that you couldn't cross. But I think that with godly wisdom and guidance by Holy Spirit, we could definitely hone those somewhat.
Yeah. And I guess refine. What is the spirit of the thing?
Yeah.
What is God really asking you to do when he says, do not murder, do not steal, those kinds of things. So he references Plato. He likes Plato a lot. And he has a quote here from Plato that said, he calls law and legislation a device for making men good by compulsion. And then Ron follows up. This is an end quote of Plato. This is Ron now, says, law is medicine, but not health. It keeps disorder in check, but it cannot create virtue. It's a bold claim. What do you think of that claim? Because we hear this term legislating morality. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people throw around, well, you can't legislate morality, but I would reject that. I would say that really laws only legislate morality, ultimately.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They have an instructive purpose in that.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, Plato, of course, being a pagan philosopher, you have to keep that in mind as well. Paul says the law was our tutor until Christ came. He writes, but now that faith has come, we are no longer under a tutor, referring to the law as the tutor. So when Paul says, are we under law?
Well, but he also gave us the Spirit.
Right.
So we have a guide now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that changed the game pretty substantially.
Yeah. We
have the maker of the law residing in us.
Sure. And illuminating that, what does God mean when he says?
Yeah.
And we have the complete canon, to clarify where there's confusion and things of that sort.
So that's a very deep question.
Yeah.
To wrestle with.
Well, let's ask a more practical question. So we have to kind of get to like U.S. history and U.S. government and things like that, where this is kind of on people's brains. A lot of people with Trump derangement syndrome And any cult of personality around a political figure, a legislator or whoever it might be, this concept of like, well, they're restrained by laws. We have checks and balances. We have the Constitution, which the Constitution's job is to enumerate specific powers and to restrict abuses. And a debate can probably be had for a long, long time about whether it's effective at doing that or if it's being observed today. But the theory being that the people in this country are sovereign. We have enacted a constitution to restrain the government which we elect to take care of business for us. So would you, with regards to like the wisdom of men versus law, would you rather be ruled by a wise ruler with fewer laws, or would you rather have laws that govern, let's assume that they're laws that you would agree with and generally, but more laws that would be, just kind of enforced by an executive function of some kind?
I would have to go a step further and know the heart of the population.
Okay.
Because even some of the founding fathers said this government is for religious people.
Right.
And without
morally upright.
Yeah. And
that's the famous John Adams quote.
Yeah. So without that, then I think you need more laws. But with morality, I think you need less.
Sure.
It's just less oppressive, less tyrannical.
Mm-hmm.
It's good all around if a moral people can somewhat govern themselves, and I think that's what we're called to do.
Yeah, and we see this in history. I think I mentioned last time that I've been reading the biographies of John Sevier, talking about the early Watauga settlers, the first people who came into Tennessee from Virginia, North Carolina, and the early settlers all came. They were of like mind. They all wanted the same thing. There was lots of gates to jump through to get to that point. It was hard. Nobody was really interested in going over there and being a miscreant because you couldn't just easily get there. It was work. So the people that went were going to build a life for themselves. And for many years when they got here, there was no law enforcement or written laws. And it wasn't until a crime was committed, I think somebody stole a horse or something along those lines, that they were like, all right, we got to put a court in, we need a sheriff, we need laws. And everybody kind of knew already, because I think what ended up happening is when they caught the guy, they hanged him. But there was technically no law that said that was the case. And they weren't sure, is this under North Carolina's law? Do we have a court that has the ability to mete out capital punishment or felonious kind of penal stuff? And they went around and around with North Carolina about that for a bit. But I think that kind of bears out the point of like, if you've got a virtuous people that are all working together on the same mission, do you need laws? And you can get by with very few. And, like I said, they caught the guy and they dealt with him. It's not written down, but everybody knew the rule. You didn't really need the law. So, and they had leaders. So that may go towards the idea of, do we have wise leaders to deal with issues as they arise, or do we need laws in place to deal with issues that arise, or is it both? Or
I think it all depends on the volume,
because
you can't efficiently deal with a high volume, like that. But laws let you do that.
Sure,
laws let you put mechanical procedures in place in order to take care of stuff like that.
Yeah,
and that's where we are today, and that's why our justice system is so huge, just because we deal with so much law breaking and everything else.
Yeah, I was a cop for 4 years in Nashville, and when I would go to General Sessions Court, which is one of the first stops in the judiciary process if you're charged with a crime, and your state probably has something similar wherever you are, but they may call it something different. But General Sessions Court is a probable cause hearing, so it's like, is there enough evidence to believe this person should be on trial for this matter? And the dockets, every single day, 5 days a week, multiple General Sessions courtrooms, like 5 or 6 of them, would be hours long. There'd be 80 or 100 people with hearings scheduled for that day. And that's one city in one state. And it makes you wonder, do we have an overabundance of laws? I mean, maybe not. Maybe that's evidence that there should be. That's another good question to ask. If you have this much misbehavior, then do we need more? Maybe enforcement is lax. I don't know. There's a couple of ways to go with that, but
yeah, the easy answer is we need more Jesus. But
sure,
how do you get there?
All right, let me see. I'm looking for another quote here. There was one specifically that I had in mind. Oh, here we go. So this is talking about the rule of the wise. Like, is this an ideal that we should be kind of hoping for, as opposed to rule by an overabundance of just legal like code? So he's referencing Solomon. It says biblical kingship shows the same hierarchy. Solomon's judgment between the two mothers is not a legal formula, but a revelation of the heart. His wisdom fulfills the law's intent, rather than applying its letter. Christ on the Mount completes this pattern. You have heard it said, but I say to you. Each antithesis moves from rule to reason, from restraint to renewal. The law forbids murder. Wisdom roots out hatred. The law condemns adultery. Wisdom purifies desire. The king governs by wisdom, not by code. The code trains the king. It does not sheathe his sword. Yeah. That's an interesting reference to Solomon. He's referencing, if you're not familiar with this, Solomon, the very famous legal case brought before Solomon, right? There's two mothers, both have infants. One of them had rolled over and smothered her infant in the night, and they both woke up the next day and claimed the surviving infant was theirs. So they're brought before the king because everyone's probably afraid to touch that and deal with it. And so he says, all right, we can't figure this out. Bring me a sword. I'll cut the baby in half, and you can each have half. And the woman who was the mother said, no, just give the baby away to her. I'd rather him stay alive. And then by that discernment, Solomon was able to say, well, you're the real one, so give the baby to her.
Right.
This is kind of a famous example of Solomon's wisdom. He's purported to be, by the Holy Scriptures, the wisest man who ever lived, with the exception of Christ. And so, obviously the law doesn't say, well, if there's a dispute about a baby, cut it in half, right? That's not what the rule was. So he had to apply this in a way that was wise.
Yeah, I think there are multiple examples of king's wisdom, or even not kings, but like very powerful people, like Joseph. Mm-hmm. His wisdom was obviously abundant, and it was wisdom that came from God through dreams and whatnot. Yeah, just all through the Bible, you can see kings' wisdom being treasured.
Yeah,
and guiding God's people all throughout the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah, and you could even say, just to kind of bring it back to the men of Issachar idea, if you look through the records of the Kings and Chronicles, you'll see that the pattern is you have the king's name given, their kind of dates of their rule, and then there's usually an assessment of their rule. Were they a good king or not? And the good kings were the ones who knew what time it was and knew what to do. Like they went out and hacked down the Asherah poles, right, for idol worship. They got rid of idols, or they didn't. That was often what it boiled down to. And there's lots more detail about some of the specific ones. But did they return to God, or did they move away from God? Was often kind of the litmus test. Is this a good king or not? Another example of a wise man, wasn't a king, but he was very important, was Daniel. That's one that I always think of. Yeah. I tend to think of him as behind Solomon, probably the next most wise that I can think of. And he had divine insight, but he just was, and everybody recognized that, right? Like even the pagans recognized that Daniel was a particularly gifted thinker, and he might have been like an actual intellectual genius. We don't really know that, but definitely had the wisdom that kings sought after, and they held him, even after he served under Nebuchadnezzar and Nebuchadnezzar's nephew, who was ousted by the Persians. The Persians didn't just send him away; they kept him on, right? Like they recognized that this is an asset that the kings of Babylon had, and we're gonna use this as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could name example after example, like King David, Joshua.
Yeah.
And Jericho. And there's a direct line with being close to God and having wisdom.
Yeah.
I think you could also make that correlation.
Sure. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, right?
Oh, sure.
So it would seem to be, I don't know if this is necessarily deduced directly, but the more you fear the Lord, it seems like the more wisdom you will seek from him. And he is a good God, and he gives good gifts, and he will give you wisdom. And Proverbs says wisdom just calls out in the street for anyone who will listen. So it's relatively low-hanging fruit. We have it all written down. And prayer is at your fingertips, and godly counsel from other Christians is available. So seek those people out too.
Sure.
Now let's ask this question. Do you think Trump is a wise ruler? That's who's in office at the time.
I think he has his moments.
Mm-hmm.
He has certain strong points of wisdom.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that I think that he's doing that are very wise as far as business wise.
Mm-hmm.
I tend not to focus on the character.
Yeah.
Because anybody could tear that down. But at the same time, I see that being somewhat of a necessity in the swamp that he's in.
Sure.
He has to be strong in certain ways, and that lends itself to the character traits that he has.
And it's a little bit of a reflection on the system he's in too.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
who's going to succeed in this.
And he's from the cutthroat business world too.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes through a little bit, but overall, I think he's the right man for the right job.
Yeah.
People are harping on the whole White House thing now.
Sure. Yeah.
Where he's wanting to build the ballrooms and everything
Mm-hmm.
else. And the plans for that have been in existence for decades.
Sure. And I remember him talking about this quite a while ago. Like he was excited about this. That if you haven't heard of this, if you don't know the White House's architectural layout, I can forgive you for that because not many people do. But the White House itself, the thing you see on TV, the actual big, tall, kind of squarish structure that's white, that's a relatively small portion of it. There's the East Wing and West Wing that both go off with I can't remember what they call those walkways, but they're kind of outdoor walkways that are covered. And one side, the West Wing, I believe, goes off to where the actual Oval Office is. The Oval Office is not even in that structure that you see. It's in the next building along.
There's even more underground.
And there's a bunch they have a bowling alley down there. So the West Wing is mostly where like the business office side is. And so when you see if you watch the West Wing show, which I don't recommend, my friends are gonna come after me for saying that, but them wandering around the hallways talking about things, that's often not in the residential part of the building. And then the East Wing until recently had a 2-story structure, which was where visitors would enter and they would have your metal detector and stuff like that. And then there was I think the First Lady had an office in there on the second floor, and there's just kind of some receiving areas. So that's what was demolished. It's not the residence, like the historical residence part. It's that East Wing part, and they're gonna rebuild a larger structure where that East Wing was. And this is not unprecedented. Abraham Lincoln did extensive renovations on it. There was another president that nearly tore the thing down trying to renovate the interior, and that makes sense. It's a 200-and-something-year-old building.
Yeah,
it's got to be fixed from time to time. So, that kind of brings up the old question of, I think it's the question of Odysseus's ship, and sometimes it's applied to other things. But, and I'll pose the question to you, see what you think. I'll use a more modern example because this one actually is in existence. So Lord Horatio Nelson, like the best admiral that the British ever had, fought Napoleon, won great battles. He was eventually killed in a naval battle, but his ship, the HMS Victory, I think still to this day docked at Portsmouth in England, and it's like a floating museum. But over the years, the wooden ship has had to have pieces and parts replaced. So if, in theory, the thing lasts long enough that they have to replace every single piece of wood, is it still the Victory? Like none of it is the original that they would have come out of dry dock with in 17 whatever it was built.
Yeah, I would argue it is.
Yeah. So that begs the question of what is what makes it the Victory?
It's the purpose behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the usefulness of it. It's the job that it enables.
Sure. So wherever the president lives is the White House, kind of.
Yeah.
You
could argue that. But there's more to that that picture, because Trump is wanting to beautify Washington, D.C., and he is wanting to improve Washington, D.C., and that's just one of the many ways that he's looking to do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be naysayers, and there's always going to be opposition.
Sure.
But I think he truly means well for Washington, D.C., and he appreciates beauty. And I think as Christians, we are called to appreciate beauty.
Yeah, I think so. And to probably, maybe this is too far, but maybe we should be obligated to patronize the arts in a way. Like I can't build a ballroom, right? But
Right.
my understanding is that he's building this at his own expense, and I could be wrong there. But if a sitting president wants to use his own money to build a ballroom, it's not a golf course or a bar, right? Like this is a ballroom.
But that's within his character, and that should speak to the way you think of Trump.
Mm-hmm.
He's willing to do things at his own expense much of the time.
Yeah. If it's what needs to be done in his opinion.
Yeah.
I think he's shown that before. This is just a kind of a dramatic example of it, I guess.
Yep.
Do you think Vance is a wiser ruler?
I think he's a different type of guy.
Yeah.
I think he has boldness like Trump does, but I think he has more reservedness about his character. I think he's more careful than Trump. Trump's kind of a bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
Vance is, I think he measures twice before he cuts.
Yeah, maybe so.
I think that's one way you could look at the difference between Trump and Vance. But at the same time, I think Trump has a vision. There's a long game unfolding that we don't even see yet. Sure. That Trump has, I believe, just because I've seen evidence of that in some of the actions that he's taken, just that have unfolded and uncovered.
Yeah, and I think Trump has demonstrated that he's concerned about legacy in a way that a lot of politicians don't seem to. A lot of them, and this may be a hasty judgment to make in some cases, but it often feels like they're in it for themselves. They're president for 4 or 8 years, and they're going to do what they think they can do for that time. Trump seems to be more concerned with, who's taken over. And I don't know that he's ever necessarily said those words, but he's built a movement which is different. And lots of ink has been spilled, and lots of podcasts abound about the MAGA movement itself. And I find it interesting that while you could look out from the outside in and say, well, this is just a cult of personality around Trump, but I'm just not so convinced. I think that MAGA is probably going to outlive him.
Yeah, I think you could look at it in a fatherly way. He's kind of training his sons, for lack of a better term, and not his actual sons, but possibly his actual sons, to follow in his footsteps. Mm-hmm. He's creating a path that is sustainable. He's not just serving his time and just saying, well, whatever happens next, I have no.
Yeah, I'm just out.
Yeah, I'm out.
I got mine.
Yeah, he's really setting the stage well.
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of to tie that back in, do you think that kind of like succession planning, legacy-focused mindset, is that a mark of a wise ruler?
I think so. I really do. In that way, yes. That's just not something that we're used to.
Sure.
In our politicians. Yeah. Is that type of wisdom. But
maybe one of the shortcomings of the system that we have, right? Like you have term limits, and therefore... this is one of the arguments that I've heard for monarchy. And, a king will pass on his kingdom to his children in some form. And so the incentive, kind of like it would be for a private citizen to build wealth so that they can have an inheritance for their kids, which doesn't motivate everyone to do that, but it's a motivator. And it is something that people consider when they have kids. I want to at least make it to where I'm not a burden, if not give them, more than I had. So if you got a king who's got a kingdom, he's got a son, or he's got a daughter who will marry a son who he can then pass on through his own family line. He's got this incentive to pass on a healthy kingdom that is preferably stronger than it was when he took it, or ready for the rule of the new one, and to raise the son up in such a way that son will manage it well and hold it in trust for the next generation. And presidents don't really have that incentive unless they are personally motivated, like what it would seem to be the case with Trump. Like he kind of wants.
Yeah. And you see his younger sons, you see them weighing in on some of his decisions because they know the times, and they can speak into the more current issues.
Yeah, and Barron kind of became a meme in the last election as sort of a new, like a right wing kind of messiah type figure, and that was done with a little tongue in cheek. But I wouldn't at all be surprised if he had a future in politics. He seems to have the gravitas.
Yeah.
And there's less of he seems less rough around the edges in ways that his dad is. So that, he may be around. We'll see.
You see that in all of Trump's kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're more refined, at least to, certain extents, like especially his daughter. His daughter is, very classy, and she doesn't speak out anywhere close to what Trump does.
Yeah, they're more measured, more controlled. I wouldn't say self-control is and I believe he's grown in that area.
He has. There's a big difference ever since the assassination attempt. I think it has given him a new outlook on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's our assessment of Trump with this. Vance is looking like he's probably going to run next. I think that's likely, or at least
I think
sometime soon. So we'll see what happens next, I suppose. Anyway, so this was Ron. So to bring it back, if you're interested in this idea, you can engage with this article on AmericanReformer.org, where you'll find it. It just came out on, today's the 29th.
Yes.
Yeah. So today's the 29th of October. So that's the date that it came out. And the title of the article is The Rule of the Incarnate. And again, the thesis is this idea that societies are, kind of the subtext is that societies are better off governed by wise rulers than they are by an abundance of laws. And that's a thesis which you can disagree with, but you should look into it and read it and see if you find this convincing or interesting. And I don't think that he's necessarily advocating for a monarchy. He might, if he were in the room with us, he might say he would rather have that if he could, just snap his fingers. I don't know. Would you rather have a wise president or wise ruler or wise judges? We all kind of want these things. And if you could trade in a bunch of our laws and get in exchange wise rulers and governors and judges, I don't know that there's a lot of people who would say, "Nah, I'd rather just have a bunch of laws."
Yeah. If there was a way for him to be omnipresent in all the courtrooms across the nation, then that would be one thing. But I think with the sheer volume that we deal with today, it would lead to more chaos, I think, than it would lead to order.
Yeah,
I think the
society
laws
would not be ready for that kind of thing yet.
That's more of a utopianistic ideal. I mean, in the practical space, I think laws are required.
Yeah. And even the laws we have, if you're of a mind that we have too many, or that there's, they're excessively burdensome or maybe pedantic or something, they're just kind of petty, we still need wise application.
Sure. And I think that's what's lacking in our whole society, and judges included, because judges are they're the arbiter of.
They're kind of the front line.
Yeah. And they are supposed to be the wise ones.
Yeah.
And they can enforce or choose to overlook certain things. Certain things they can't overlook, but there are certain things that they can. And they can make judgments on situations that are
sometimes pretty heinous crimes,
Yeah.
like they still have wide leeway, and they're protected from consequences in a lot of cases. I think there's probably limits to that. I don't know exactly what they are. A lawyer could probably sound off about that, but that kind of begs the question. And the judiciary in general is kind of, if you're a political conservative, they're kind of, they're kind of on the hit list right now, proverbially, for being obstructing a lot of things. Frustration about poor enforcement of crime. I mean, this was the situation in Charlotte, right, with the girl who was stabbed on the train. That guy was arrested a whole bunch of times. I don't remember the number, but it was enough that people were like, why was he out? Why was he out walking around? And the theory, of course, being, well, judges kept letting him go, which is quite possibly accurate. I don't know. But would you rather take the judge's subjective judgment out and just say, there's people who've advocated for things like let an AI do the judging, right?
I think that's where we're headed.
Yeah. Like a neutral letter of the law only. And I don't know if I like that. I'm frustrated with judges too. But
yeah, I just think it's what school that you subscribe to as far as being a judge. If you're more conservative, I think you're gonna be a more just judge. You're gonna be a more lax judge if you're left leaning.
Yeah, that seems to be the trend.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure there's a few exceptions, but that seems to be what we see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's shift to something more lighthearted, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Unless you want to go on with that. So we just had the bison stew at your bison ranch.
Yeah.
Tell me about the bison stew.
Well, we've done it for over 30 years. My family, on our family farm, we always get together at a designated time, and I started at 7:30 in the morning. I hung the kettles on the chains that we had made. We've got a whole structure we put up, and we create fires under that and start boiling some water, and then we put the bison meat in. Then we put all the different ingredients, the tomatoes or tomato paste and tomato sauce and potatoes and carrots and onions. And we have a recipe that at different points during the day, we put them in. And it's from an old recipe we got it was a horseback riders club from way back in my early childhood. I mean, I was little. I was probably 5 or 6 years old whenever we got this recipe. And my dad has just treasured it. And we have, between 200 and 300 people probably there at the farm.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I kind of thought it was going to be like 30.
No.
I get there and it's a whole thing. You got a bunch of...
Yeah, we even have music there at the barn.
Well, that was my first clue that it was kind of a bigger deal when you were like, well, there's going to be live music. And I was like, oh, this is a thing. This is a big old thing. So.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just something my family has done as a deep rooted tradition.
Yeah.
And we love to share what we've been blessed with. And the bison stew is, I think, a tradition that could be lost, and we're trying to keep it up, keep it going strong.
Well, it seems pretty strong at the moment, and I hope it keeps up too. That's the kind of cultural artifact that. Those are the kinds of things that when you take for granted, whatever you take for granted, the next generation will lose.
Yeah.
And, I know that you're passing it on because my little girl's in class with yours, and they were talking about having to rest their hands that day so that they would be ready to peel potatoes.
Well, yeah, the night before, I mean, it's a big undertaking. Mm-hmm. And we have about between 15 and 20 people come the night before, and we'll peel, oh goodness, probably close to 100 pounds of potatoes.
Yeah.
And cut up onions and get carrots and everything ready. And just, we're preparing. We put it all on ice so that the next day when we're ready for it, we can just dump it in.
Yeah.
Because there's no way we could do all that needs to be done the day of.
Sure.
We could. I mean, it's 5 big,
what are
between 25
and
35 gallon kettles.
Yeah. They were serious, man. It looked like a witch's brew. It was a proper stew. It was also very good. I had the spicy kind.
Yeah, we cook a traditional. We cook a vegetable bison. We cook medium spice.
It's very difficult to raise vegetable bisons.
It's not vegetarian. It's bison stew with more vegetables in it. And then we have the spicy.
Yeah.
And my late brother, he was always putting a little extra spice in, so we had to put some in for his memory.
Pour a little extra in for him, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, there was an anecdote that your wife shared with me about the burgers. Do you mind sharing that?
Oh no, it's a tradition that also comes from my late brother, and we make these burgers one time a year, and you get saltine crackers and you crush them up, and then you infuse it with all the meat. Mm-hmm. You season the meat when you put the crackers in it, so the seasoning is all throughout the meat. We cook those, and they're probably 1.5 inches thick burgers. They're great big, substantial burgers. Mm-hmm. That's just a tradition as well that runs parallel to the stew cook for all those that help us.
Yeah.
The
thing that I really liked about that she shared was that this was something that your brother had been doing, and that with him not being there, that your son said he wanted to take over.
Yep,
and
he did.
That brings a tear to the eye.
Yeah.
With this idea of like, well, we're not going to, we want the next generation to carry this on. This is important to, it's sentimental, but also like this is something of interest to me because it's kind of how I view my work as a teacher is, I want the next generation to have access to the things that the generation before me gave me. It's just really nice to see that trust passed on, even in something as, this is not world peace. This is a important family tradition that this young man, relatively young man, has recognized the importance of and has a desire to carry it forward. And one day his son maybe will make them as well.
Yeah, and my father is very good about all that. He loves passing down those tradition rich, things. Yeah. Like we have a live nativity at our farm every year. Yeah. It's always the first Saturday in December. Yeah. And we make stockings we probably make 700 or 800 stockings and just hand them out to kids around that area. And there's several kids around there that don't have much financially, and that's one of the big things that they get. Mm-hmm. My dad is like Santa Claus and John Wayne infused together, basically.
Man, I would watch a movie about that.
Okay, everyone, pause and insert Jeff from this point forward. He just showed up. So we give him a short synopsis of the subjects that we've been speaking on, and he gives us a quick comment. And you may hear a tiny bit of info repeated as Jeff hears it, but I think it's worth getting his input from this point out. So now back to the podcast.
I'm glad y'all are talking about that. It is governance by layering rules is corruption, really. Yeah, you're trying to manipulate people rather than grow them in wisdom, and it's a problem. It's so convenient, it's so easy, right? Yeah, just add another rule. Mm-hmm. I think the classic example for me about a wise ruler punishes evildoers. Mm-hmm. I worked at a trucking company here in town for a number of years, and there were like 5 guys who went outside every break and just smoked cigarettes. And every day that they did it, at every break, would get an email saying, "Please don't smoke at the entrance of the building." All it really would have took, and the reason that it never changed anything, they would just send the email. They would never go deal with the actual rule breaker. And what it ended up doing was undermining anybody's sense of respect for the authority. Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking about Bison Stew.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Guys, if you ever get a chance to go to Lazy G and eat Bison Stew, you've got to make the trip. That was unreal, Jason. Do y'all cook it over the fire, or do you kind of pre-prep it and then put the fire?
I mean, everything's cooked. I start at 7:30 in the morning, and we boil water. I put the meat in, and then we have a set list and a way that we add all the different components.
They're doing some alchemy in there. They got the old recipe book out.
It was legitimately, well, I mean, bison's good to start with, but it was turning into gold. My favorite part was the hockey puck of bison that was in there.
I got a couple of those, yeah.
And I remember being like, do I need to get a fork or maybe a pitchfork to get this in my mouth? But you could cut it with the spoon.
Yeah, you just bite a piece off.
Yeah. It was unreal.
Yeah, it's boiled. I mean, that's the first thing that we put in, so it's cooked all day long, so it just falls apart usually.
It was unreal, man. Unreal. Everything I go to out there is top notch. Y'all do it right.
Well, Big Eddie likes to do it right. Go big or go home.
Yeah, I also got fascinated looking at the mules that he was pulling the hayride with. I've got a little nephew who, I say a little nephew, he's young compared to my old self, but he's got a nice set of mules that he pulls a covered wagon with, but man, those were some pretty animals.
That's W.J. Staggs, and he's from around Rickman, and he still logs.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's probably well into his 70s, and he logs with mules the old-fashioned way, and he's just a stand-up guy. Yeah. He's a great guy.
Well, it looks like he takes care of his animals, too.
Absolutely.
You can learn a lot about a man by how he takes care of his animals. And
yeah, he does, and he raises a lot of them, and he's sold a lot of animals over the years.
There's a Mennonite community kind of southeast of us, and they still run draft horses. And man, that's an impressive thing to go watch.
Oh,
too.
yeah. We used to have 2 big Belgians. And man, they were beautiful. We felt bad not utilizing them, so we sold them to someone who would. But now we have 2 quarter horses. They're half quarter horse, half Clydesdale.
Okay.
And they're full sisters. And they're from out west. And they're growing up to be beautiful horses, and we're gonna train them to pull. We have a real stagecoach.
Yeah.
And we're gonna train them to pull that.
That's cool. I used to ride quarter horses and walking horses when I was a kid. I miss doing that. I keep thinking when we get a fence built, I might have to buy one of my daughters a horse.
Don't tell her that, listener.
Yeah.
Don't tell her that yet.
I've been around horses my whole life. My family has been like highly successful and highly competitive in both walking horses and cutting horses, which are quarter horses. My brother's wife, she put herself through college, and she represented the United States of America in international cutting.
Wow.
And my first cousin was grand champion of the world in walking horses for like 3 years. He had a legendary horse, and it's still known, Big Bad John.
Yeah.
But I've never gotten to be around him because I'm allergic to him.
Zyrtec won't fix it.
Just the walking horses, though. No. Other horses are fine.
Tennessee walkers are
so walking horse is one of our state animals.
Yeah, and they are a fabulous watch if you just watch them operate.
It's really amazing.
Maybe for some other episode, but we kind of famously say that dogs are man's best friend, and it clearly does seem like the Lord gave dogs in a unique way, at least to the West. But horses and cattle, or bison, but horses and cattle have done a lot. Ruminants have done a lot for mankind too.
Like horses have a special place in the human race and God's plan. I mean, even the Bible says the Lord rides a white horse.
I was about to say,
and that's obviously a symbol of power and victory. And depending on who you ask, that may be metaphorical language, but horses are special. And there's a guy up the hollow from us that has a little horse riding school that he does, and his technique is that he buys wild Mustangs for like $150 and
we got 2 of them.
Yeah, and he says he's got a horse there. He's like, I wouldn't sell this thing for $25,000 because I've put so much work into, and he loves that horse. But that's kind of how he gets his animals, and then he's just got the skills to turn it into a useful thing. But it's just, you take a wild animal. There's not a whole lot of wild animals that you can just make into a, go catch a raccoon sometime and see how long it takes to get it to domesticate.
Terry speaking from experience.
Yeah, well, ours is a domestic. I have a raccoon, which is another state animal for our state, but it comes from multiple generations of being pets, and it's still very prickly about certain things. And so, there's just some animals that are. I don't really recommend raccoons as a pet, having some experience with that, but horses and dogs and. I don't know. I'm partially convinced that bears one day will be domesticated animals.
I've seen them.
They want to be around us. They want to hang around.
They want to eat what we eat.
Yeah, they do. Well, that's how we got dogs. They came up to the campfire and somebody said, "Here you go."
We need to train one of those old school wrestling bears. That have these competitions, declaw them and then wrestle them.
Home defense bear.
Yeah. I think horses symbolize just bridled power. Because they are just so majestic in the strength that they have, and they're very loyal. I've been around enough people that are around horses to learn some things about them, and they are very loyal to different people, and they can tell the difference in someone with good motives and someone with bad motives.
Well, I mean, I guess probably kind of my bent in life is that I'm inclined to think of these things as frou-frou, but I've just been won over by the empirical evidence. There was a horse therapy place up in East Tennessee.
Oh, sure.
And kids who had real trouble, man, they would bond with a horse and it made real improvements in their life. And I just saw it enough that I'm like, hey, this is not hippie stuff. There's something to it. I don't know if we'll ever be able to quantify it, but that's why I kind of went to cattle, dogs, and horses. There's something about them that they have a unique relationship to humanity. and it goes beyond mere utility.
Yeah. And there's a link between the bison and the Native Americans.
Oh, for sure.
That it blows my mind. You can go on YouTube and search up the Lazy G, and there's a video where my stepmom talks about one day there was a Native American lady that came up, and she said, "Can I sing to the bison?" And Frida said, "Sure, I guess, if you want to." And she started singing in her native tongue. And the bison that were there were about between 30 and 40 bison, and they all laid down.
Really?
And they just, I don't know how to explain it or how to quantify it, but there's a direct link, like with the Native Americans and the bison.
Well, yeah. I mean, that would make sense. Maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe horse, cattle, dog is for Westerners. Maybe Native Americans, it's bison. But, if that's a food supply, you do become what you eat. You have a connection to the things that compose who you are. And, again, can't ever quantify it. Maybe the Lord would explain it in glory someday, but that they have some kind of community connection. Yeah, I'm very open to that.
Well, Tolkien talked about this, and I can't remember what it was in, but he was kind of complaining, like, we don't eat food grown on our own land. We don't drink the water that comes out of our own creeks. And that's the reason why you don't hear stories of people seeing wood nymphs and water sprites anymore. And I'm not sure how literal he was being, but the idea of, like, we've lost our connection to the places where we actually live. And I've always found that to be an intriguing concept. I'm not necessarily looking to see fairies in the woods, but I
actually think there's some of this in Aquinas too. Mm-hmm. I've not sussed it all the way out, but he certainly believed in like subordinate regional spirits. Mm-hmm. And it would make sense to me, that there's that old tradition of when a baby was born, they'd go tell it to the trees. They'd go out to the woods and let them know. I think we talked about this last episode. Lewis called it chronological snobbery to assume that those people are idiots for doing that. Mm-hmm. They had some good reason to do that.
Yeah. I think there's definitely dominion over certain lands that was given to different spiritual entities.
The Bible seems to indicate that.
Prince of Persia, all that, you can go as far as you want to.
The Lord, and you don't just have to take like the little hints of like Prince of Persia, the Prince of Israel, your people. The Lord clearly is pleased to distribute his own greater ultimate authority through subordinate authorities. Nobody has a problem saying he administers his authority to restrain evil through the government, or to cultivate humans through the family, or to cultivate virtue and discipleship through the church. I imagine regionally there's probably some kind of distribution too.
Well, guys, thanks for, I think that's going to wrap things up. Thanks for coming, and thanks for all the conversations.
Sorry, I missed all of it.
It's all right.
Well, you missed some of it, but you came in
You can
there.
listen to it when it comes out.
I definitely will. Yeah. Definitely will.
But, I guess we'll catch you guys next time.
I heard the warden say, here's a dead man walking. Guard gave a nod, pointed me to my cell. Seems like ages I've lived in cages. Might seem strange, but I liked how they felt. The drink put me down and the pills woke me up. Spirit came by to feed on my lust. Hooked on a craving, smothered in doubt. Then I found Jesus, and he broke me out. I'm on a run to the river, hey preacher, meet me there. Bring the undertaker, not a moment to spare. Running with the old man, don't be scared. Meet me at the river, meet me at the river. Gonna bury me there. Running through the woods, God chasing me down. Flash grin at their shouts. If I make it to the water, I can throw off the hounds, 'cause the man going in ain't the man coming out. I'm on a run to the river, hey preacher, meet me there. Bring the undertaker, not a moment to spare. Running with the old man, don't be scared. Meet me at the river, meet me at the river, gonna bury me